All right, so for our first lesson on how I got a 4.0 in college, I'm going to talk about whether or not you need to go to class. First off, if you only have an in-person option and you don't have the option for any recorded lecture, online lectures, it's just you go in person or you don't, go to class. There's not an option. It's so important because they're going to be telling you what you need to know for the exam. They're going to be telling you what you need to know content specific wise, hearing it, seeing it. I don't care how early it is, you're paying for the class, put in the work and go to class. Now, especially with the COVID era, Zoom University has become a lot more popular. And so a lot of teachers have been posting their classes online. So you can either stay at home, watch it on your own time and have recorded, or Zoom in. If the class is under 30 people, I highly recommend going in person. Getting to know your professors is huge in college or in high school or whatever course you're taking, not only because they can give you future letters of rec, because they can explain concepts to you better, but just having that personal relationship with them. If you start struggling a little bit on in the class or sometime in the semester something comes up, you have something for work, your car breaks down on your way to go home for a test or something, they're a lot more understanding if they know your face, if they've seen you, if they have a relationship with you. If they've never seen you before and they don't know that you're trying, they're not going to help you out. So a huge part is your connections. I mean, to get straight A's, you have to know a lot, but it's also who you know as well. So get to know your professors, and especially if you have a small class size, take advantage of it. Um, for bigger classes, it's kind of more up to you. If they have the option to have a recorded class, whether or not you go to class, I would still suggest going in person, hearing it, participating, actively moving to a different location to learn. You're going to focus better when you aren't at home, have distractions. You can get on your phone and start texting. Your roommate walks in. If you're in class, you can go and pay attention, and you can also get on a schedule, which is huge. So I highly suggest going in person and then coming back and rewatching the lectures, pausing, taking notes, getting over it a little bit more slowly. And also the first time you can kind of just sit back and take it in and not stress so bad. And then when you come home, review it, go through it more in depth, see which things you didn't catch, the things you're familiar with, just move through them. Part of studying is being efficient and learning what you need to know. So if you're familiar with it after already being in class, you can just zoom through it during your online lecture. And if you do stay online and take online classes for Zoom, I had to do that because with COVID, we actually just could not physically go in person. And sometimes it is a little bit better for your schedule if you're a working mom, if you have a full time job, if you have something to where going to a campus and driving for 50 minutes for one day just isn't practical and isn't going to help you. It's okay to stay home. But make sure you bring the same discipline that you would have in your in person class to home. Keep your phone away from you. Make sure your roommates know that you're in class. Don't zone out. Don't be checking email, especially if the professor can't see you. A lot of times I'll turn my camera on, even though, I mean, you kind of become the nerd. But I turn my camera on so then it keeps me accountable. Because if I know that they can see me texting or I know that they can see me get up and go grab a snack, then I'm not going to actually do it. But the second I turn my camera off, then all of a sudden I get hungry or I get thirsty and I want to get up and leave the room, or my phone buzzes and I want to check it, or I want to just take a nap. I mean, it's just a lot easier to avoid distractions when you kind of have some form of accountability. That being said, if you decide to go to class, which again, I highly suggest, actually pay attention when you get in class. I can't tell you how many times I'd be sitting on a row and then in front of me, I see all these girls online shopping in the middle of class. Guys would have like full video games, like with these huge double screen setups and everything. Like, you're paying money, especially if you're in a university, you are paying tuition to be in this class. Take advantage of it and learn what you actually need to learn and learn what you're paying to do. Don't pay someone thousands and thousands of dollars to go and sit in a room and online shop and pay even more money. So when you go, actually pay attention in class, try to learn, put your phone away, and it helps keep distractions. Secondly, it really helps for schedule. Especially for me, it helped a lot to wake up early, go to class. I would on purpose schedule my classes for earlier in the morning because after I'm awake and I come home at like noon, eat lunch, I'm a lot more likely to go and study. If I have a night class, I'm probably not going to wake up and study earlier, or I mean, now maybe, but it's just a lot easier once you're already awake, you're already moving, you've already been productive, come back home, study, and things always pop up in the evenings. So then you can kind of have your productivity and your like priorities done earlier in the day so you can go and enjoy yourself later, which is a huge part of enjoying college while you're at it. So I highly suggest go to class, pay attention in class, and go to class early if you can. If you can choose your schedule, it's going to help you a lot. Okay, so very last thing. Now you've actually been in class, focus on what the professor or teacher is saying. And not just like, focus on what they're saying, but I mean, what of all the content, all of chapter 1, all of chapter 2, what are they focusing on? What do they think is relevant? What do they think is important? What do they think is interesting? There is some bias, but usually the vast majority of professors that I've had and that I've seen test over what they talk about. They really will talk about in their lectures what they think is interesting because it's more fun for them to talk about, or what they think is pertinent to the information that you need to know. So whenever you're reviewing your supplementary materials that they might provide, yes, if they say this is a required reading, you should know the other things, but make sure you're integrating that with the lecture at all times. So that's to say, if you are in a class talking about joints and they keep on talking about all the ligaments, and then you go through and you start reading about the different structure and the things surrounding the ligaments, don't read them separately. Be thinking, okay, how is this thing around the ligament supporting it? How is it providing nutrients to it? Why is it there? What's the location for it? Ask these questions for any topic that has to do with the lecture and be incorporating it, because that's how it's going to come into the test.